So in DC news, this was actually kind of a shocker. This was announced, I believe, right after we did the last podcast. The villain for the solo Batman film has been confirmed, and it's not who we thought it was, but it's someone that I am very excited to see on the big screen, and that would be Mr. Slade Wilson himself, Deathstroke. And this is from comicbookmovie.com. Jeff Johns, Ben Affleck recently revealed test footage from the set of Justice League featuring Batman and Titans villain Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke. Now, new profile from Ben Fritz of the Wall Street Journal has seemingly confirmed that Joe Manganiello, hopefully I'm pronouncing that name right, from Magic Mike and True Blood, will play Slade in the Oscar winner's upcoming directorial effort, the untitled Batman solo film. Some fans had previously pointed to Twitter activity of Manganiello and his wife, Sofia Vergara, God, I'm so jealous of him, as evidence of this casting, and it seems they have now been vindicated. Deathstroke. Very underrated villain. I'm glad that he's going to be the Batman villain, because I think those two can have some really awesome fights and really good chemistry. It'll be tough to top Manu Bennett, because that's kind of who Deathstroke is in my mind. Manu Bennett did an amazing job in the early Arrow seasons, and I wonder if Deathstroke being in the cinematic universe is going to affect Manu Bennett possibly coming back as Deathstroke in Arrow. Stephen Amell has come out and said that it hasn't, but we have seen in the past DC get rid of some things on the small screen for the big screen. For example, the Suicide Squad was featured in Arrow quite prevalently, and Amanda Waller was a big part of it, and she was killed off, spoiler alert, and they got rid of the Suicide Squad. And seemingly enough, it was around the time that they really started pushing the movie. So I think that Warner Brothers still has that old school mindset of TV's here, movies here, they stay apart from each other. I don't really think that's a good idea, because as we've seen from Marvel, I think it's very good that you have cross-promotion, and I think that they need to do that with the Netflix shows. I'm really hoping that in Infinity War we see, you know, Daredevil, Punisher, Jessica Jones, all of those. I hope we see all the Netflix characters in Infinity War. I have my doubts about that, because they're doing the Defenders pretty quickly. I believe, let's see, Luke Cage comes out September of this year. Then next year we get Iron Fist and the Defenders. So I don't know if they're going to be putting them in Infinity War. I hope so, because this is supposed to be the climax or the pinnacle of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I hope they do it. I think it would be awesome. I think it would be great to see Matt Murdock interact with Tony Stark, or Jessica Jones interact with Black Widow. It would be so cool, and the Netflix shows are so popular. I actually like them more than the Marvel movies at this point, because you can just sit down, you have more time to invest in the characters. It's a little grittier, a little more realistic as you can get with superpowers. I just like it more. What can I say? Keeping it in the DC universe, Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy tease Hush and A Death in the Family DC animated films. And this is also from our friends at comicbookmovie.com. Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy were in attendance at Canada's 2016 Fan Expo and reportedly sent the audience into a tizzy when they teased what the next slate of DC animated films might consist of. Let's see, Conroy turned to Hamill and asked, "What do you think about Hush?" Naturally, this produced some oohs and ahs from the audience. However, the crowd went absolutely wild when Hamill then followed up and asked Conroy, "Well, what do you think about A Death in the Family?" Are Conroy and Hamill having a lark with their fans, or are animated adaptions of Jeff Loeb's Hush and Jim Starlin's A Death in the Family really in the works? Now, I will say this, I've never read A Death in the Family. As you know, I'm more of a Marvel guy than DC, but I have read Hush. Hush is very, very good. I think that this would be the next possible great DC animated film, because not only do you have, you know, all the villains, but you have a newer villain that has a personal connection to Bruce Wayne. And I think that would make for an entirely new dynamic that we haven't really seen in any of the DC animated films, or at least the animated films that I've seen. I don't really know that much about Death in the Family. I know Zach will probably kill me whenever he watches this, but I'm sure he would be really excited about that as well. Something I know that I want to see from DC, I know they're big on the Batman animated film kick right now, but what I would love to see, and I mentioned this a few weeks ago on the podcast, I would love to see a Superman Red Sun adaptation, because to me that is one of, if not the greatest what-if story ever told. If you don't know what Superman Red Sun is, it's basically instead of Superman landing in rural Kansas, he lands in communist Russia. And it's really interesting having to root for Lex Luthor over Superman. But I digress. Hush would be great. I know they've got Justice League Dark coming up as their next big one, and they have Matt Ryan returning to voice Constantine, which I think is great.